Have you ever noticed that the most consistent people in the world do not talk about motivation? They do not wake up every day feeling inspired. They do not wait for the perfect moment. They simply show up and do what needs to be done every single day. No negotiation. While some wait to feel the urge, these people have already done it. While many seek cheap motivation in YouTube videos, these people have already trained, studied, and performed. And when some ask how these people do it, the answer is never about feelings. It is about something much older and much deeper. In 10th century Japan during the Heian Period, there was a concept that separated ordinary men from legendary ones. This concept did not speak of physical strength nor of intelligence. This concept spoke of something the Japanese called Yamato Damashii, the Japanese spirit, the soul that moves the body even when the mind wants to stop. This concept built unbeatable warriors. It created generals who changed history, and it was badly twisted centuries later during World War II when the Japanese government used it for war propaganda and extreme nationalism. But the original meaning of Yamato Damashii had nothing to do with war or empire. It was about one simple and very powerful thing: duty over feelings. Today you will learn what this ancient concept really means and how it can change you from someone who knows a lot but does little into someone who simply cannot stop taking action. But first I need to tell you the story of a man who had all the knowledge in the world and no courage to use it. I need to make something clear here before we begin. There are two types of motivation: cheap motivation, which we can call excitement, and there is motivation that is important, which is the reason for action. We can call this second motivation ikigai. If you watched the last video on the channel, you know what I am talking about. In this video, we are going to talk about how the first type of motivation, which is excitement, does not have the power to get you where you need to be, making this clear right from the start, so there is no confusion in your minds. Before we go to the video, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, like it below, and comment. What is the action you put off the most in your life? What is the plan you want to achieve and already know exactly what to do, but always stop and seek more knowledge before acting? Leave a comment, but also help others who comment. Maybe some of them need advice in an area you're good at or something you've dealt with before. Let us create a community of people who help each other and want everyone to improve. Thank you very much for your time and attention. Back to the video. Chapter 1. The Man Who Knew Everything and Did Nothing. Year 950. Heian Period, Japan. Tadayoshi was 24 years old and had already read more books than men of 60. The son of a noble family, he had access to Chinese classics, Buddhist texts, and the teachings of Confucius. While other young nobles wasted their time on parties and poetry, Tadayoshi studied military strategy, battle tactics, and the philosophy of war. He had a dream to become a great warrior, perhaps even a general who would change the fate of Japan. But he had a terrible problem. He could not act. Every morning, Tadayoshi woke with grand plans. Today would be the day. Today, he would begin real training. Today, he would pick up his sword and train until his hands bled. But then something would happen. He would find a new book, a text on a technique he had not yet fully mastered, and he would think, how can I train without fully understanding the theory first? He read, he studied, he memorized, and when he finally felt ready to act, the day was over. Tomorrow, he promised himself, tomorrow I will start. The household servants began to whisper. The other nobles laughed behind their backs. Tadayoshi, the warrior of books, they mocked. He can kill you with knowledge, but never with a sword. The truth hurt because it was real. He had enough technical knowledge to train soldiers, but he himself had never sweated, never felt the burn in his muscles after hours of training, never faced the real discomfort that turns theory into skill. His father, a stern man who had served as a military advisor, looked at him one day and said something that would break any man. You have the head of a general and the heart of a scribe. Knowledge without action is worthless. You are a ghost pretending to be alive. Tadayoshi did not sleep that night. His father's words echoed like thunder. He knew it was true. All that knowledge, all those years of studying, and he remained exactly the same, weak, hesitant, trapped inside his own head. The next morning, something different happened. He did not open a book. He left. Chapter 2. The Meeting in the Forest. Tadayoshi walked without a plan to the forest near his family's estate. The air was chilly. The sun had barely risen. He did not know what he was looking for. Maybe clarity. Maybe an excuse to get back to his books. That is when he heard it. A rhythmic, repetitive sound, metal cutting through air, wood hitting wood. He followed the sound to a small clearing, and there stood a man. He must have been around 50, with graying hair, tied back in a simple bun, his body marked by old scars. He moved with a wooden sword, performing the same movements over and over hundreds of times. The same cut, the same posture, the same breathing. Tadayoshi watched, amazed. There was no emotion on the man's face, no expression of effort or pleasure, just movement pure, constant, relentless. When the man finally stopped, Tadayoshi approached. Master, he began, using the term of respect without even knowing if the man deserved the title. I have watched you train. You have a discipline I have never seen. Please teach me. The man looked him over from head to toe. He saw the fine clothes, the soft hands, the posture of someone who had never worked a day. No, he said simply, and began to turn away. Wait, Tadayoshi begged. I have studied all the techniques. I know Sun Tzu. I know the strategies of Chinese generals. I can learn quickly. The man stopped. He turned slowly. His eyes were hard as stone. You know techniques? Good. Use them yourself. And he continued walking. Tadayoshi felt something burn in his chest. Shame, anger, desperation. Please, he cried. I need to change. I need to become more than I am. The man stopped again. This time he was silent for a long time. Finally, without turning around, he said, You are going to give up. I will not, Tadayoshi replied immediately. Everyone gives up. I am not going. The man turned. He studied Tadayoshi's face. He saw despair there. But despair was not enough. Despair was just another feeling, and feelings pass. But perhaps this young noble needed to figure this out for himself. Tomorrow, the man said, before sunrise, Here, if you show up, I will consider teaching you. If you do not ever come back. Tadayoshi nodded eagerly. I will be here, I promise. The man almost laughed. Promises, as if promises meant anything. Chapter 3. The first day, Tadayoshi did not sleep that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the man's stern face. He heard the voice. You are going to give up. He could not give up. Not this time. He arrived at the clearing an hour before dawn. It was dark and cold. He waited, shivering, until the first rays of sunlight touched the trees. The man appeared like a ghost without a sound. Suddenly, he was simply there. He looked at Tadayoshi with something that might have been surprise or disappointment. It was hard to tell. You came, the man said. It was not a compliment. It was an observation. I said I would come. Words, the man murmured. Today I will find out if you have anything more than words. What followed was hell. The man who finally revealed his name as Kaido started simply. A basic stance, crouching knees, bent back straight, arms extended, holding a wooden sword. This position, he explained, was a foundation of everything. How long? Tadayoshi asked. Until I tell you to stop. 2 minutes later, Tadayoshi's legs were shaking. 5 minutes later, he was in a cold sweat. 10 minutes later, every fiber of his body screamed to move, to straighten, to stop. Master, I do not. Silence. Kaido cut in. He was sitting on a rock staring at Tadayoshi with the same calm expression. Your mind is telling you to stop. It lies. 15 minutes. Tadayoshi felt tears in his eyes. Not of sadness, of pure physical agony. I cannot stop it, Kaido said. Suddenly, Tadayoshi slumped forward, breathing as if he had run a marathon. His legs would not stop shaking. He looked at Kaido, hoping for what? Understanding, encouragement. What he saw was disappointment. 15 minutes, Kaido said. And you already want to give up. Do you think battles last 15 minutes? Do you think enemies wait for you to get comfortable? Tadayoshi lowered his head. The shame was overwhelming. Go home, Kaido said, standing up. You do not have what it takes. Something broke inside Tadayoshi. No. Something woke up. No, he said, forcing himself to stand on shaky legs again. I will do it again. Kaido looked at him with new interest. You think motivation will save you? This anger you feel now, it will pass. Tomorrow you will wake up, and you will not want to go back. I will be back. Why? Kaido asked. It was not a rhetorical question. It was a test. Tadayoshi opened his mouth, closed it. He had no answer. Why would he come back? Because he wanted to be a warrior. Because he was ashamed. These were feelings. And Kaido was right. Feelings pass. You do not know, Kaido said. And because you do not know, you will not last. He began, walking away. Wait, Tadayoshi shouted. Tell me then. Tell me why I should go. Back. Kaido stopped. He turned around slowly. Because it is your duty. Duty? Tadayoshi repeated confused. Duty to whom? With yourself. With the man you promised to become. Motivation is a feeling. Duty is an order. Feelings change with the wind. Duty remains even in the storm. Kaido took another step and then stopped again. We Japanese have a word for that. Yamato Damashii, the Japanese spirit. It is not about feeling like it. It is about doing it because it is who you are. Chapter 4. The second day and the first. Lesson. Tadayoshi returned the next day. Not because he wanted to. His entire body ached. His legs could barely support. His weight. Every muscle protested. But he remembered Kaido's words. Duty remains. Even in the storm. Kaido was there waiting. This time his face showed something different. Not approval, but recognition. You are back, he said. I said I would be back. Yesterday you said it with emotion. Today you say it with weariness. Which is truer, Tadayoshi thought. Today, he admitted exactly. Yesterday you were motivated. Today you are doing your duty. One disappears. The other does not. Kaido made him assume the same posture as yesterday. This time before he began, he explained, Yamato Damashii is not something you feel. It is something you do until you become who you do. I will teach you. What did you study in the books? Kaido asked as Tadayoshi held his posture. Battle strategies? Tadayoshi replied through gritted teeth. Tactics, formations, and that made you a warrior? No. Why not? Tadayoshi did not respond immediately. He was focused on the pain. Because I did not act. Partially correct. Kaido said, Chinese knowledge. All that studying you did is valuable. The classics teach strategy. They teach wisdom. But there's an old saying, knowledge is of little use without Yamato Damashii. Tadayoshi felt his legs start to tremble. Again, do you know what that means? Kaido continued. It means you can know how to win every battle in the world. But if you do not have the soul to show up on the battlefield, that knowledge is worthless. Yamato Damashii is the soul. That turns knowledge into action. It is the spirit that keeps you moving when every part of you wants to stop. Tadayoshi's legs gave way. He fell. 20 minutes this time. 5 minutes more than yesterday. Kaido nodded. Progress. Not because you have gotten stronger. Your body is weaker than it was yesterday. You have progressed because you have learned that pain is not the enemy. Hesitation is the enemy. Centuries later, a human behavior researcher at the University of Tokyo who studied samurai culture for more than 15 years would explain the concept of Yamato Damashii during the Heian Period was not about war. It was about the difference between imported book knowledge and natural, practical wisdom. The Japanese saw that studying Chinese theories was important, but without the ability to act quickly, without the spirit, that knowledge stayed useless. It was the difference between knowing about swimming and actually swimming. Chapter 5. The Lesson of the River. Third day, Tadayoshi arrived just in time for dawn. Kaido was waiting, but this time they did not stay in the clearing. Today you will understand the difference between doing it when you want to and doing it because you have to. Kaido said, "Follow me." They walked to a nearby river. The water was fast and cold. Kaido pointed to a rock. In the middle of the river, you will stay on that rock, holding stance until I tell you to leave. Tadayoshi looked at the icy water. For how long? Until you understand. Tadayoshi stepped into the river. The water was so cold it cut like knives. He jumped onto the rock, slipped, almost fell, but managed to catch his balance. He assumed his stance. The water lapped at his legs. The cold was unbearable. 5 minutes, and he was shaking uncontrollably. 10 minutes, and he could not feel his feet. 15 minutes, and he was starting to panic. Every cell in his body screamed, "Get out of here!" He looked at Kaido on the shore. The old man sat motionless, staring at him. "Master," Tadayoshi shouted, "I cannot take it." "Your ancestors endured," Kaido shouted. "Back." They stood on battlefields for days. They marched with open wounds. They fought until their last breath. And you cannot handle cold water. "But why?" Tadayoshi shouted back. "Why do I have to do this?" "Because it is your duty," Kaido roared. His voice echoed through the forest. "You asked me to teach you. You promised to become a warrior. That is not a request. It is a declaration, and declarations demand duty." Tadayoshi closed his eyes. Tears streamed down his face, mixing with the river water. He thought about giving up. He thought about leaving. It would be so easy. But then he remembered his father's face. You have the mind of a general and the heart of a scribe, the laughter of the other nobles, the warrior of books. All those years studying, reading, planning, and nothing changing. He was not that man anymore. Not now, not here. The cold remained. The pain remained. But something shifted inside him. He stopped fighting it. He accepted it. I am here because I choose to be. I stay because I must. He did not even realize how much time passed. Kaido eventually shouted, "Get out!" Tadayoshi jumped off the rock. His legs were barely responding. Kaido helped him out of the river and led him to a fire that was already lit. 45 minutes. Kaido said, "You stayed 45 minutes." Tadayoshi stared at him in disbelief. It felt like hours. "Do you know what happened there?" Kaido asked. "For the first 15 minutes, you fought the discomfort. It exhausted you. Then something changed. You stopped fighting. You accepted that the cold was your duty. And when you accepted it, strangely, it became easier. Not because the pain lessened, but because you stopped adding mental suffering to the physical pain." Kaido added fuel to the fire. This is Yamato Damashii. It is not about not feeling. It is about not letting feelings control your actions. Did you feel cold? Yes. Did you feel like leaving? Yes. But you stayed because duty does not negotiate with discomfort. Chapter 6. The Master explains the origin. That night, Kaido allowed Tadayoshi to return home early, but first they sat by the river, listening to the rushing water. "Do you know why I taught you about Yamato Damashii?" Kaido asked. Tadayoshi shook his head. "Because you are exactly the kind of man this concept was created to save." Kaido looked up at the stars. "Centuries ago, our elite studied the Chinese classics, Buddhism, Confucianism, strategy, philosophy. They were brilliant men. But many of them were like you. They knew everything and did nothing. Knowledge without soul, theory without practice. It was then that our ancestors realized something. They needed a word to describe what separated the men who just knew from the men who actually did. It was not enough to have Karazukai, Chinese, knowledge. You needed to have Yamato Damashii, the native spirit, the soul that makes you act even when you do not want to. It was not about being anti-Chinese or anti-foreign, Kaido continued. It was about recognizing that knowledge is a tool, but spirit is the craftsman. You can have the best sword in the world, but if you do not have the courage to wield it, it is just pretty metal. Tadayoshi absorbed every word. Do you know what truth those ancients discovered? Kaido asked. That practical wisdom, the ability to solve real problems, to make decisions under pressure, to act when action is necessary, does not come from books. It comes from doing, from showing up, from doing your duty when every part you wants to run away. Yamato Damashii was this. The difference between the scholar who debates war and the warrior who fights in war. Between the poet who writes about courage and the man who acts with courage. Between you 3 days ago and you now. Chapter 7, The Great Temptation. Week 2, Tadayoshi had made progress. He could hold poses for longer periods. His muscles were beginning to respond. But then came the real test. It was a full moon festival. All the elite would be there. Music, poetry, sake celebration. Tadayoshi was invited. The night before, he could barely sleep. Not from excitement, from internal conflict. He had trained 7 days straight. One night would not make a difference, right? He deserved rest. He deserved fun. On the morning of the 8th day, he did not appear in the clearing. Kaido waited. He watched the sun rise completely. Tadayoshi did not come. Tadayoshi was at home sleeping after a night of partying. When he woke up, it was already late and guilt crushed him. Immediately, he had broken down after a week after all those promises. The next day, he went to clearing expecting to find it empty. Kaido would be so disappointed he probably would not come anymore. But Kaido was there waiting. His face did not show anger. It showed something worse. Sadness. You missed it, Kaido said. It was the festival. Ice silence. Kaido cut in not angrily, wearily. You do not owe me an explanation. You owe yourself one and you failed. Tadayoshi felt tears well up in his eyes. I am sorry. Please let me continue. It was a mistake. It was a choice. Kaido corrected. You chose comfort over duty, pleasure over promise. And you know what that proves? That you still do not understand Yamato Damashii. You still think it is about doing it when it is convenient. Kaido started to turn to leave. Wait, Tadayoshi begged. Give me one more chance. I understand now. I really understand. Do you understand? Kaido turned, then explained to me what is Yamato Damashii. Tadayoshi took a deep breath. It is doing it even when you do not want to. Partially correct. Continue. It is duty over feeling. That is a result, not an essence. Deeper. Tadayoshi closed his eyes. He thought of everything he had learned. The cold of the river, the pain of the postures. And then he understood, it is who you are, not what you do. It is your identity. When I break it, I am not breaking a habit. I am betraying who I declared myself to be. Kaido was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded. Now, you are beginning to understand. Yesterday you chose pleasure, Kaido continued. Today you must choose consequence. Every choice has a price. Yesterday's price is paid today. What? Kaido did next completely broke Tadayoshi. He made him hold the pose for 2 hours. Non-stop, no mercy. As Tadayoshi fell trembling and crying, Kaido said, This pain, you chose it yesterday. When you break your duty, you do not escape. Consequences. You only postpone them and they come back worse. It was at that moment that Tadayoshi realized something that would change his entire understanding of discipline. The problem was never not knowing what to do. The problem was that he was playing the wrong game. Chapter 8. Identity not action. The next day, Kaido began teaching differently. Instead of focusing on physical training, he made Tadayoshi sit. Do you think discipline is about doing difficult things? Kaido asked. It is not. No, discipline is about being someone for whom these things are non-negotiable. There is a huge difference between I should train and I am someone who trains. One is desire. The other is identity. Kaido drew in the dirt. Look, when you say I want to be a warrior, you are creating distance between who you are now and who you want to be. This distance allows for negotiation. I want it, but not today. I want it, but I am tired. But when you say I am a warrior, there is no distance. There is no negotiation. Warriors train not because they want to, because it is what warriors do. It is identity, not choice. Tadayoshi felt something click in his head. So Yamato Damashii is not about forcing action. Exactly. Kaido smiled for the first time in weeks. Yamato Damashii is about embodying an identity so completely that the action flows naturally. You stop asking, should I? And start simply doing it because it is impossible not to. It is who you are. Think of the great warriors of the past. Kaido continued. They did not wake up every day deciding whether to train. That question did not even exist. They were warriors. Warriors. Train. It is that simple. The problem with your book knowledge was not that you had knowledge, Kaido explained. It was that you identified yourself as a scholar who wanted to be a warrior, not as a warrior who studies. Do you see the difference? Tadayoshi saw clearly for the first time. In the coming months, Kaido said, I will teach you how to change your identity, not through thought, through repetition. So consistent that your body and mind have no choice but to accept you are no longer who you were. Chapter 9. The Transformation. The following months were brutal, but something basic changed in Tadayoshi. He stopped negotiating with himself. Kaido taught him a simple principle. Decide once, act 1,000 times. Tadayoshi decided who he was not, who he wanted to be, who he was, and then he lived as that person without question for 90 days. Every day before sunrise. No exceptions. No, just not today. No, I am too tired. The question, am I going to train today, simply no longer existed. Of course he would. Warriors train. And he was a warrior. Something strange started happening in week 6. Tadayoshi would wake up before his alarm. His body would automatically begin preparing. By week 8, he realized he no longer thought about training. He simply showed up. Kaido watched with satisfaction. See what happened? Your brain finally accepted it. You are not forcing it anymore. It is flowing. But the real transformation came on day 63. Tadayoshi woke up sick, fever, body aching, mind foggy. The old voice whispered, today you must rest. He got up anyway. He staggered into the clearing. Kaido was there and immediately saw his condition. You are sick, Kaido said. I am. Why did you come? Tadayoshi replied without thinking, because that is who I am. Kaido smiled, not a small smile, a huge smile of real pride. Now you understand. Yamato Damashii is not about being strong. It is about being unshakable, not in power, but in identity. Go home, Kaido said gently. Rest today, but you have already proven your point. You did not come because you had to prove yourself to me. You came because you cannot help but come. You have changed. Tadayoshi returned home, but something had basically changed. He did not feel guilty about resting because it was not a break. It was strategy. Warriors rest to fight better tomorrow. Weak people rest because they are afraid to fight. The difference in tension, identity, purpose. Chapter 10. The Final Lesson. Day 90. 3 months of nonstop training. Tadayoshi was no longer the same man. Physically, he was transformed. Muscles where there had been softness. Calluses where there had been soft skin. But the real change was invisible. Kaido sat him down for the last time. You have completed your Ango, your intensive training period. Now, I will tell you the truth, you needed to discover for yourself. Yamato Damashii was never about training. It was about death and rebirth. The Tadayoshi who arrived here 3 months ago, that man who knew everything and did nothing, he died. Every single day when you woke up and chose duty over comfort, you were killing him and being born anew. The books you read were not wrong. Kaido continued, the knowledge you have is valuable, but knowledge without a soul is a corpse. Beautiful perhaps, but dead. Yamato Damashii is the soul that animates knowledge. It is what transforms information into wisdom, theory into practice, intention into reality. Kaido stood up. There is one last thing I need to show you. He led Tadayoshi to an open field. There, waiting were 20 armed men, soldiers, real warriors. These men, Kaido explained, are from a nearby clan. They need an instructor, someone who understands strategy, but has also proven they can execute. Someone who has Yamato Damashii. Tadayoshi looked at the men, then at Kaido. You are recommending me. No. Kaido said, I am handing you your duty. You spent 3 months learning to be a warrior. Now you will teach others to be warriors. Not through books, though your books are useful. Through example, through identity, through Yamato Damashii. Tadayoshi felt something tighten in his throat. I do not know if I am ready. No, one is, Kaido said. But warriors do not wait to feel ready. They show up and become ready through action. You know that now. Chapter 11, The True Meaning. Kaido pulled Tadayoshi aside before introducing him to the soldiers. Let me tell you something about Yamato Damashii that few understand. There's an old saying our ancestors used to say, knowledge is of little use without Yamato Damashii. You have heard this from me before, but now I will explain why it matters so much. For a while, Kaido explained, our elite were obsessed with Chinese culture. And it was true the Chinese had incredible knowledge, philosophy, strategy, art. But some Japanese nobles began to realize a problem. They knew all about war, but had never fought. They knew all about governing, but could not make difficult decisions. They knew all about courage, but had never tested it. They had Karazukai Chinese knowledge, but they did not have Yamato Damashii the spirit to use that knowledge, and knowledge without spirit is useless. You were exactly like that 3 months ago, Kaido said, looking Tadayoshi in the eye. You had all the knowledge of military strategy from the Chinese classics. You could quote Sun Tzu, debate tactics, explain formations, but you had never sweated, never felt your muscles burn, never forced your body to do something. Your mind told you it was impossible. Your knowledge was dead because you had no soul to animate it. Kaido continued, Yamato Damashii does not reject foreign knowledge. It completes it. It takes theory and turns it into practice. It takes I know and turns it into I do. That is the true meaning of the concept. Kaido said it is not about being Japanese versus being Chinese. It is about recognizing that wisdom comes from 2 sources, book knowledge and lived experience, The spirit that makes you act, suffer, persist, transform. That is Yamato Damashii. Tadayoshi nodded slowly. Everything made sense now. It was not about denying his studies. It was about completing them with action. It was about becoming the bridge between theory and reality. Now go, Kaido said, and teach these men not just what you know, teach them who you have become. Chapter 12. 5 years later. 5 years had passed since that first day in the clearing. Tadayoshi, now 29, had become exactly what he had dreamed of. Not just a warrior, a general, a leader, who men followed not out of fear but out of respect. He commanded 300 soldiers. He had won 3 important battles. But more importantly, he had taught what Kaido had taught him. Yamato Damashii. Their soldiers were not the strongest. They did not have the best equipment. But they had something enemy armies did not. They did not negotiate. When the order came, they executed it without hesitation, without internal questioning. Not because they were blind, but because they had an identity. We are Tadayoshi's soldiers, they said. And Tadayoshi's soldiers do not break. One day, A young recruit came to Tadayoshi. He reminded Tadayoshi of himself. Intelligent, studious, but weak. General, the young man said, I read all the manuals. I know all the techniques, but in training camp, I freeze. I know what to do, but I cannot do it. Why? Tadayoshi smiled. He had waited years for this question, because he knew that one day he would have a chance to pass on what Kaido had passed on to him. Because you have knowledge without a soul. Tadayoshi said, knowledge tells you what to do. Yamato Damashii makes you do it. Come with me tomorrow, before sunrise. I will teach you what no book can teach. And the next day in a clearing in the forest, a new cycle began. A Japanese historian specializing in the Heian Period, who has devoted years to studying the evolution of cultural concept, explains what modern people do not understand about Yamato Damashii is that it was not anti-intellectual, it was pro-action. The Heian elite was so absorbed in studying Chinese classics that it was becoming ineffective. Yamato Damashii was the fix, not rejecting knowledge, but insisting that knowledge without execution was worthless. It was a call to complement theory with practice, study with action, thought with movement. Chapter 13, Distortion and Return. Tadayoshi lived to be 67. He saw a lot change in Japan, but he never forgot what Kaido taught him, and he never stopped living by Yamato Damashii. But the story of Yamato Damashii did not end with men like Tadayoshi and Kaido. Centuries later, during the period leading up to World War II, the concept was hijacked, where governments took Yamato Damashii, this beautiful concept of completing knowledge with action, of having the spirit to execute, and twisted it into something horrible. They said Yamato Damashii meant dying for the emperor, that it meant blind nationalism, that the Japanese spirit was superior to all others, that soldiers should fight to the death not out of personal duty, but out of fanatical obedience. This was not Yamato Damashii. It was propaganda using the name of something sacred. The real Yamato Damashii, the one Kaido taught, the one who transformed Tadayoshi, had nothing to do with national superiority. It had to do with personal superiority, not about being better than others, about being better than you were yesterday. It was about the internal war, about killing the version of yourself that negotiates, that postpones, that knows but does not act, and being born as someone who simply executes, not out of emotion, out of identity. Today, the term Yamato Damashii bears scars from this dark period. Many Japanese avoid using it, but the essence, the truth we speak today has never died. It lives every time someone chooses duty over feeling. Every time someone shows up when they do not want to. Every time someone turns knowledge into action, theory into practice, intention into reality. Chapter 14. Applying Yamato Damashii. Today, you do not have to be a samurai to experience Yamato Damashii. You do not even have to be Japanese, because at its core, Yamato Damashii is not about culture. It is about universal human truth. The truth is this: motivation or excitement is a lie. Motivation is a feeling, and feelings change with the wind. You are motivated on Monday. Wednesday, you are tired. Friday, you give up. Sunday, you promise to start again. This cycle kills dreams. It kills potential. It kills who you could be. Yamato Damashii is the answer, and it works like this. First, stop making promises about what you will do. Make declarations about who you are. Do not say, I go to the gym. Say, I am someone who works out. Do not say, I should read more. Say, I am someone who reads every day. The difference seems small, but it changes everything. Second, understand that duty is non-negotiable. When you say, I am someone who does X, you are not creating a purpose. You are creating an identity. An identity does not have days off. You do not have a day off from being you. You are you every single day. Third, accept that transformation requires pain. It hurts a lot to break the cycle of comfort, to try to create good habits and abandon bad ones, to give up your desires. But pain is like a bitter pill. It is uncomfortable at first, but eventually you heal. Fourth, knowledge without action is an illusion. You can study training for years and remain weak. You can read about business and remain broke. You can learn about relationships and remain alone. Why? Because you have Karazukai, knowledge, but not Yamato Damashii, the spirit to execute. Knowledge shows you the way. Yamato Damashii makes you walk. Fifth, consistency beats intensity. Tadayoshi did not become a warrior in one day of intense training. He became one in 90 days of showing up every single day, even when sick, even when tired, even when he did not want to. Transformation does not come from one heroic effort. It comes from 1,000 small acts of duty fulfilled. So do not focus on impossible tasks. Instead of trying to study 16 hours in a single day, focus on studying 3 or 4 hours, but consistently every day without stopping. Do not worry about the number of hours per day. Worry about the number of days you will maintain that habit. But there is one final secret that Kaido taught Tadayoshi only on the last day, a secret that completely changes how you view discipline, and it is something you have probably never heard before. Chapter 15, The Final Secret. On the last day of Tadayoshi's training, after a full 90 days, Kaido said something that sounded like a contradiction. Now that you have learned Yamato Damashii, I will teach you when to break it. Tadayoshi was confused. Break? But you said duty is non-negotiable. And it does not negotiate, Kaido confirmed. But there is a difference between breaking out of weakness and adjusting out of wisdom. Let me explain. Kaido continued. Yamato Damashii is not about self-punishment. It is not about destroying your body or mind in the name of blind consistency. It is about serving your greater purpose, not about rigidly following rules. If you are truly sick, not lazy, but truly sick, resting is not breaking Yamato Damashii. It is honoring it because you are resting to serve better tomorrow, not running away because you do not want to do today. See the difference? Tadayoshi saw it was about intention. Warriors rest strategically to fight harder. Kaido said, cowards rest emotionally to avoid fighting. Same action, opposite intention. The test is simple, Kaido explained. Ask, why am I stopping today? If the answer is because I do not want to do it, or because it is hard, or because I deserve a break, you are negotiating. Kill that thought. Execute. But if the answer is because my body needs recovery, so I can perform better tomorrow, that is not negotiating. It is strategy. Yamato Damashii without wisdom is fanaticism. Kaido continued. Yamato Damashii with wisdom is mastery. Never confuse the two. That was the final lesson, and it was the most important one, because Yamato Damashii's goal was never to create robots that execute blindly. It was to create warriors who execute with purpose, who understand that discipline serves something greater. That duty is not a prison. It is the freedom to decide once and live 1,000 times without the burden of constant decisions. Tadayoshi's story ends, but the truth he discovered does not. That truth is available to you now today in this moment. You do not need more motivation. Motivation is fuel that runs out. You need Yamato Damashii. You need an identity so strong that action is not a choice. It is an inevitability. You need to understand that all the knowledge you have, all the courses, books, videos, strategies are worthless without the spirit to execute. Knowledge is of little use without Yamato Damashii. You need to accept that the person you are now, the one who knows but does not act, who plans but does not execute, who promises but does not deliver, that person has to cease to exist. And it is you who can defeat them every single day, by fulfilling your duty, by taking action when you do not want to, by being consistent when it is inconvenient. And in that person's place, something new is born, someone unwavering, someone who does not negotiate, someone people look at and think, how does he do it? And the answer is simple. He does not. He is. This is Yamato Damashii. It is not a Japanese technique. It is human truth. It is the difference between dreaming and living, between wanting and being, between dead knowledge and living. Wisdom. And when you finally understand this, not intellectually but deeply in your soul, you will realize you will never need motivation again, because you will not be doing things. You will be being someone, and this person simply cannot help but act. If this video changed your perspective on discipline and action, I invite you to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you do not miss future content. If you are watching on your phone, I invite you to like the video too, to help this content reach more people. Remember, knowledge without Yamato Damashii is just dead information taking up space in your head. Knowledge with Yamato Damashii is the power to transform your life. The choice is yours, but choose quickly, because every day you put off, the old you grow stronger. And one day it will win unless you defeat him today. If you have watched this far, thank you very much for your attention. You have already proven that you have something most people do not. Now use it. Take action. Be present. Walk with honor. Follow the path. See you in the next video.